I declare open the high-level meeting of the General Assembly on the appraisal of the United Nations Global Plan of Action to combat trafficking in persons, held in accordance with Assembly Resolution 64/923 of July 30, 2010, 67-190 of December 20, 2012, and 67-260 of May 1, 2013. This meeting takes place under Agenda Item 103, Crime Prevention and Criminal Justice. By its Resolution 64-293, the General Assembly adopted the Global Plan of Action and reaffirmed commitments to end the heinous crime of trafficking in persons.
I'm happy, ladies and gentlemen, excellencies, to welcome you to the panel discussion number 1 of the high-level meeting of the General Assembly on the appraisal of the Global Plan of Action to combat trafficking in persons. Our panel has a very bureaucratic title, very bureaucratic formulation, so let me read it. We will address the Global Plan of Action, relevant legal instruments, and effective partnerships to protect and assist victims of human trafficking. And we in government positions have to understand that without civil society, without the victims who then work with other victims who get them out of this horrible situation, without this we could never be able and not ever be successful in fighting human trafficking. And as having said that this cooperation with NGOs is so important with the victims, it is my great pleasure that I can now introduce to you our first panelist, Rani Hong. Ms. Hong is a survivor of child trafficking and a co-founder of the Troni Foundation, which mentors survivors of slavery both to become leaders and to work together with global leaders in the movement to end human trafficking. At the age of 7, Rani, you were stolen from your family in India, and you became a slave. And by the age of 8, your physical condition and emotional state were so dire that you were near to death. And you have then been no longer a value to your slave owner, and you were sold into illegal adoption. And the turning point came, if I'm informed correctly, understand correctly, when you came to the United States for adoption, where you finally began to find stability and a sense of personal freedom. You're married to Trong Hong, who is also a survivor of human trafficking. I've had the honor already to hear you once here in the United Nations, to listen to what you have to tell an audience of your own experience, and that's why I'm very, very glad to give you now the floor, to have the honor to give you the floor as the first speaker of our panel.
Thank you. Well, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to be here with you, to sit here and look out of this most inspirational room. So thank you for this opportunity to really hear the voice of former victims and the voice of a survivor. So I tell you my story because we know there are millions of children like the little girl I was, enslaved, silenced, unable to tell their stories. I am here to tell you that love and with proper care, we can heal. So in 2006, when my husband and I created the Troni Foundation, we knew we had to lift up the voice of survivors. We wanted to bring them to the table so we can bring a human face, a human heart to the issue. We deliver the humanity in the human trafficking. So you ask, why today we're sitting in this room and we're addressing this global problem? It's because we all have one common goal, and that is to end slavery and to help the victims. So I'm just here, as we talked about, effective partnership. how can we help? What is effective partnership? And so I would like to speak to you from the perspective of from the survivor, and I would like to use an acronym. As we know, there are a lot of acronyms here, and our simple acronym from the Global Survivor Network is called HELP, H-E-L-P. HELP, H stands for Halt and the Movement of Trafficking Persons. We know that we need to help partner with organizations, to partner with governments, to help to identify the victims. And then once we identify them, we need to start helping us in the healing process. So I would like to, in E for education, educating both consumers and people at risk of being trafficked. Again, you have the power to be our voice, the voice for voiceless. And that's a huge responsibility. And I'm here to partner with you to do that. We talk about L for labeling. One of the things that you can help us by labeling products that were made by former slaves. We know that today, that forced labor and cooperation within the supply chain is becoming a huge issue. That's where we are finding the victims. So we need to focus on the demand that fosters trafficking in the production of goods and services produced as a result of trafficking in persons. And we need to adopt and implement a global seal or label, something that will bring a greater education, a mass education. And then most importantly, protecting and assisting former slaves. So through our Global Survivor within the 14 countries that we work with, every day survivors are inspired when they hear there's change that's coming and that there are people working on our behalf. So we know right now, as we're sitting in this incredible room, we know there are millions of children, mostly women and children, being held against their will, beaten, starved, tortured, in all forms of human trafficking. So I speak for them, and I ask you not to give up on us. There are many successes in the fight against human trafficking. Global awareness has increased significantly. Governments are doing their part. But still, I call upon you yourselves to commit to doing greater work for the sake of victims. I want to call you individually and as partnerships to bring this effective partnership together. How do we all work together? We bringing our skill sets together. So I know here today there's a collective power. Let's use our collective power to bring about a global change. Because I, as a survivor and as a former victim, I need your help. And again, representing millions of children who cannot be here, begging you for your help. So today I ask you to engage with us, to let our experiences help guide your work, to collaborate around the solutions. We need your time and energy, and most importantly, we need your funding to bring the healing process. So I know it can seem daunting. We're against a $32 billion industry, as we've heard the numbers, but I want you to remember, in the real simple, focus on the image of the one girl that was imprisoned alone. That her story and the story of millions like hers guide you, inspire you, and compel you to do everything you can to fight this trade. Thank you. Well, as we're coming towards the closing of this, I just look and I've been listening to all of our passion to make a difference. And I really want to speak to you as I travel around the world and as I visit the shelters, as I visit with the victims, I cry with them, I listen to them, and I let them know that their voice is being heard. Because so often, we as victims and the survivors feel like we're left all alone. But today, I can go back and I can say, there's a group here that's advocating on our behalf. And I want to encourage, one of the things as survivors, as we get together and we talk, we want to encourage responsible communications. We want to make sure we're not labeled into a certain form of human trafficking or we're labeled into a certain box, but we are people, just like you guys. We deserve the love and the attention as all of us want. So as a survivor group, and as I mentor them in leadership curriculum, we want to be able to focus on the solution. Isn't that what we're all about? It's about finding the solutions that really work. And that is what we're doing. So I encourage you as member states, governments, NGOs, the media, let's come together. We have to come together and work. So we're one voice that is for the survivors. And another point, I just want to talk about accountability. I know we sometimes don't want to talk about that word, but we as survivors, we need you guys to be accountable to do what you say, what's in the plan, what's on the paperwork. Let's lift that up, and let's really focus on how we can change the one single life, the life of a 7-year-old child as myself. Please remember that every day as you go forward, as it gets hard, with so many different things pulling at you, I want you to remember you are making a difference, and we as survivors are counting on you. So thank you very much.